This is a tutorial for how to complete the measurement conversion problems that are located in Module 2 for this week's assignments. So let's read the directions together. So right here, the directions say that to practice converting a measurement from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So you need to think back to the relationship between our units. And remember that if we're going from a small to a big unit, small to big, divide. And you can see here that we already have the division signs populated in these try problems, right? So we know that we're dividing. Okay, if you look at the first example, you'll see that the very first blank space is identical to the problem. So we're just typing in how many centimeters we have in the problem. The second blank space is what you'll need to think about. What are we dividing by? How do I get this number? Well, you need to think about the relationship from centimeters to meters. How many centimeters are in 1 meter? You can either have that information memorized just from using these measurements a lot, or you can use a conversion chart. So this is the conversion chart that I've posted in your Google Classroom page that you can use. You can print this page out, or you can just have it up as a separate tab and keep referring back to it. So this is where I can get the information from. I found 1 meter, and I know that it's equal to 100 centimeters. So that's why in problem 1 we're dividing by 100, because that's how many centimeters are in 1 meter. When I'm dividing a measurement conversion by 100, when I'm dividing a decimal by 100, I'm just shifting the decimal place to the left. And this is the same exact thing we did in the lesson earlier where we were learning how to divide decimals by powers of 10. We're not really changing the digits, we're just sliding that decimal point over to show that the number is getting smaller. So if I'm dividing something by 100, I can use my trick here. I know there's 2 zeros, so those 2 zeros are telling me to move over 2 place value positions on my place value chart. So I'm going to shift, and you can kind of picture shifting all those place value coins or chips we used in class, right? So instead of having a 3 in the ones place, I need to shift that 3 2 places over, right? So I'm taking my chips and I'm shifting them 2 places. I'm shifting the 3 to the right, the decimal moves to the left. 1, 2. Here's my decimal point. There's my answer. So, and you can think back to the relationship. We know 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. See how this number is a little bit more than 100? And this answer is a little bit more than 1. So that makes sense for the relationship. Let's look at number 2 and see if we can solve that together. So I know that I have 8,850 meters, and I'm trying to decide how many kilometers that same amount is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open a text box, and I'm going to type in how many meters I have on this first line here. Oops, let's make that a little smaller. Okay, so I know I have 8,850, right? Let's move that down. Got that there. All right, the next step is I need to figure out what I am dividing this number by, right? So this is where you can use your conversion chart. We need to find the relationship between meters and kilometers. Okay, I'm on my conversion chart now, and I see here's kilometers. So I know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters, right? So that's what I need to divide my number by because that's the relationship. So I'm going to go back to the Nearpod slide and I'm going to plug 1,000 into that blank space. Okay, so we need a new text box. Let's resize it. And let's move this over here. And we're going to make it say 1,000, right? Okay, so now I'm ready to actually do the conversion. Okay, so I have a new text box open and I'm ready to do this conversion. So what you're thinking in your head is you're picturing this number on your place value chart at school, right? You can picture having 8 chips in the thousands column, 8 chips in the hundreds, and 5 chips in the tens. If I'm dividing by 1,000, I'm going to shift all of these digits over 3 spaces. The numbers are moving 3 spaces to the right because I'm getting smaller, I'm dividing. And I know I'm moving 3 spaces over because of those 3 zeros, right? Oops, let's get a new text box. Okay, so let's do that. Let's picture that in our head. I'm going to get a marker out so you can see it. All right. So if I'm shifting my numbers 3 places over to the right, you're starting with a decimal point kind of at the end of your number, because this is a whole number. It appears in front of the decimal. 1, 2, 3. So I moved my decimal 3 places in, which is shifting all of those digits over to the right. So instead of my 5 being in the tens place, it moves it way past the decimal point. So my new answer is, and you can see where the decimal point is, right? My new decimal point is right where that blue line ended. So my answer is going to be 8.850, which is what I'll type in now. Resize that, move that over a little bit. Okay, so there we have our final answer. All we did was we moved our decimal 3 places to show that that number is getting smaller, right? If I have 8,000 meters, it's only going to be 8 kilometers because kilometers are larger. You can kind of think in terms of customary units if that helps you and kind of compare it that way. All right. These two problems are very similar. Use your conversion chart to find out how many grams are in a kilogram, how many milliliters are in a liter. That's what you divide by. Okay. For these bottom problems down below, I think these are a little bit simpler because you don't have to change the first number. We already have this listed in the correct measurement unit. So you keep 200 all the way through the problem. My second number is what I'm converting. So instead of 5 centimeters, I want to know how many meters that is. Just like we did up here, I know that there are 100 centimeters in a meter. So I'm going to take my 5 and divide it by 100. Or move the decimal place 2 spaces. So instead of my decimal being after the 5, because my 5 is a whole number, I'm going to move it 1, 2. A little hard to see. Let me see if I can make that a little smaller. So you can fill these blank spaces in with 5s, right? But you can see that there would really be a 0 in front of the 5, and that's where I'm getting that answer from. Okay, I rewrote my 5 centimeters here so it's easier to see. So because my 5 is a whole number, you can pretend there's a decimal point right after it so you know where to move it. I am moving my decimal 2 spaces because I'm really dividing this number by 100. Dividing it by 100 because that's the relationship between centimeters and meters. Dividing it by 100 means I'm moving 2 spaces. 1, 2. Put your new decimal point. Fill this blank space with a 0, and you've got your answer. When I combine these two things together, 200 is a whole number, so it goes in front of the decimal, and 0.05 goes after. So remember, when you're doing measurement conversions, you need to think about the relationship between the two units and what to divide by. You can use a conversion chart to help you. This is a copy of the conversion chart that's available on Google Classroom, and I suggest you refer to that to remember which number to divide by.